Okay, here we go, Linda. Here's the first part. This is how we're going to do this. I'll have done my job today if you leave this class knowing 3 cool things about essential oils. So the first cool thing about essential oils is that they're 100% natural and very safe. Oils are extracts from plants and they have amazing health benefits. There's nothing added and nothing taken away. They're just pure essential oil. A pure oil is about 50 to 70 times more powerful than herbs. They're so potent. And then we'll have everyone put a drop of peppermint in the palm of their hands, or even just a volunteer, 2 volunteers. And we'll say, okay, everyone, just touch the little edge of your finger in the oil, and then I want you to jab it in your eye. Okay, just kidding. So I did have a friend of mine who taught a class where someone was a little trigger happy, and they actually did that, and it did not feel good. So if you ever get oils in a sensitive part of your body, we just use a carrier oil, like fractionated coconut oil, to dilute it, and it will take the sting away really fast. Okay, so now for real, touch the edge of your finger in the oil, and then I want you to press it to the roof of your mouth. Now tell me, how does that feel? And we're going to wait for a response. So the other way we'll use it right now is be rubbing it between our palms and then breathing deeply from our cupped hands. See if you can breathe that in for 30 seconds. How does that feel? We'll wait for a response. You see, that's how powerful these are. In fact, 1 drop of peppermint essential oil is the equivalent to 28 tea bags. What I love about these oils is the CPTG standard. It stands for Certified Pure Tested Grade, and it means these oils are completely pure and potent. Pure means that there's no foreign contaminants or fillers, and potent means that each plant was grown in a part of the world where the plant grows best, resulting in the absolute best chemistry for that plant. When you have the ideal natural chemistry, the essential oil extracted is exactly what we want and will do what we want for our own health. So that's the first cool thing about essential oils. Who can tell me the first cool thing about essential oils? Okay, the second cool thing about essential oils is that they are more effective than many medications. First, do we have any medical professionals in the room? Okay, so what I'm going to tell you now is going to sound super elementary to you. Most of us in the room do not have the medical training that you do, so I'm going to really simplify things so it makes sense to everyone. This is going to be like 6th grade chemistry for you. Okay, is that okay? So let's say this is a cell, and we're going to hold up your fist or hold up the edge of the body, or the edge of the bottle. We know that the cells have an oily cell membrane. The cell membrane keeps the good stuff in and the bad stuff out. And now there are 2 things that attack our cells: bacteria and viruses. So let's say you went to the doctor with a bacterial infection. What would he do? Right? He gives you an antibiotic. And after taking that antibiotic for like 7 to 10 days, in most cases, it clears up an infection. But that cost of that is wreaking havoc on your gut, your hormones, and your immune system. You probably should be taking a probiotic at the same time. So that's a bacteria because it lives here on the outside of the cell, and antibiotics are water-based, so they can only deal with bacterial things that live on the outside of the cell. So if you go to the doctor with a virus that has cold and flu-like symptoms, and that means that the virus that lives here on the inside of the cell, what would he or she tell you to do? Right? He's going to tell you to go home, get some rest, drink plenty of fluid, and all that is really good advice. You should still do that. But the reason he's telling you that is because most medications we just said are water-based. They're synthetic agents, and they can only deal with what's on the outside of the cell. But a virus actually lives on the inside of a cell, right? So your water-based medications cannot pass through this oily membrane. But a virus on the inside of the cell can be treated with an oil, because an oil will move through the cell membrane and into the center of the cell and attack that virus right at the heart. So essential oils are oils, right? They can permeate the cell membrane, and they go to work on a cellular level without side effects and without addictions, and they can combat the bacteria on the outside of the cell and prevent the duplication of viruses on the inside of the cell. And so that is why they are more effective than many medications. So who can tell me the second cool thing about essential oils? Okay, so the third cool thing about essential oils is that they are cheaper than many traditional medicines. They are way cheaper than traditional medicines if you're living somewhere in the States, like where you have to pay to go see a doctor. We are very lucky here in Canada. So we don't have to pay a copay to actually go and see a doctor. But many of us do still pay for a prescription. Plus, we have to take into account the cost of gas to get to and from the doctor, the time you maybe had to wait to go and see him. Maybe you had to take time off of work. Maybe you had to go pick up the kids from school. Maybe you've got people home like that, or people that you had to keep home from school. And so we have to also take into account that and the cost of the probiotic that we talked about earlier, because that will be often your antibiotics or your medications are harmful to your gut and you need a probiotic too. So we buy extra probiotic for 2 weeks to fix the damage, and so that's even more money. So when someone in my family has something like an ear infection, we rub 2 drops of lavender and 2 drops of melaleuca around the ear and we put them to bed. So I say around the ear because we never put an oil inside your ear. Your membrane inside your ear is very sensitive, and so these oils are too potent for that, so it just goes around your ear. So you put the melaleuca and the lavender around your ear, send them to bed, and about 12 hours later, the ear infection is cleared up. And that cost was about 64 cents, right? So even if you had free healthcare coverage, this natural route still wins. Plus you had the melaleuca and the lavender here because you're using it for like 27 other things too. So we can save hundreds of dollars a year in medical costs because of essential oils. And really, you almost can't afford to not have natural solutions in your house. And that is why essential oils are cheaper than most traditional medical care. So who can tell me the third cool thing about essential oils? So there are 3 ways you can use essential oils too. Aromatically is our first one. So the first way is aromatically. Everyone take your fingers and pinch right above the bridge of your nose. Let everyone do it. So right under your fingers is your olfactory nerve. Now you can take your fingers down because you look silly. This nerve sends messages to your limbic system of your brain, which in turn sends messages all over your body. And sometimes, like I used to think, I was one of them, but sometimes people think it's super hokey to say that an oil could affect your body just by smelling it. But think about this for a second. So when you go to the hospital for surgery and you need to be put under, how do they deliver the anesthesia? Right? You breathe through a mask and count down from 10. Exactly. So when you breathe those synthetic compounds through the mask, your olfactory system is powerful enough to send signals to your body and saying, shut it down, shut it all the way down. And it can do that in under 10 seconds. So it is the fastest access to your brain. It's just one synapse from this gland to your brain. So there are a few ways you can use essential oils aromatically. You can breathe them in from your hands. You can use them in a diffuser, or you can just breathe it in, take a sniff right from the bottle. So let's have a little experience right now with the wild orange. And we'll let everyone inhale from the wild orange from their hands, and then you can ask them to describe their experience. So the first way to use essential oils is aromatically. The second way we can use these oils is topically. So you can actually apply the oils directly onto the skin. So for children or for people with sensitive skin, you'll want to dilute them a little with some fractionated coconut oil. And it's just as effective. It just takes a little longer to absorb. So you can even apply these oils to the bottom of your feet, even with babies, and it won't bother them. It's a great way to get the oils into into your system quickly. So what are some of the different health needs you can think of where you might use an oil topically? And we'll let people answer. And it would be like a sunburn or a kitchen burn or maybe a rash or a cut or a scrape or a bee sting or even just for a tummy ache, something like that. So the second way to use essential oils is topically. The third way to use these oils is internally, and these oils are not only safe to use internally, but they are recommended. The CPTG standard means these oils are a medicinal grade and are completely safe to ingest, unlike other brands. So you can put these in your mouth, you can drink them in your water. If you don't like the taste, you can put them in a veggie cap, and it's kind of like concocting your own little natural remedy. You put it in your mouth and your body's going to metabolize this just like food. So what are some health needs that you can think of where you might use your oils internally? And then, inflammation and pain is one, tummy ache, even cold and flu, because we talked about the viruses. Things like that is what we're looking for. So the third way to use essential oils is internally. Who can tell me all 3 ways to use essential oils? And we'll reward whoever answers, just like we did before. So some of the funnest, most powerful part of the class only works if people have been properly sampled, right? So this is what's coming up next. If it's done right, our guests will have a little bit of proof. So at the beginning of the class, I'll maybe do a little bit of sampling with some deep blue and some past tense and things like that. So, and then we'll say, so here's the funnest part of the class. And I'll do this part. We'll maybe play this part by ear. Who wants to come up and tell us about the experience they've had? I've got one of these samples of oils for you if you do. And so they can share one personal story about one of the 3 ways to use oils. And I'll share one and you should share one. But then I'll say, okay, so there are just 2 rules. You have to keep it under 60 seconds and it cannot be the same story or the same oil as someone else has used. Okay? And then from there, we'll go into the close of the class, but I'm going to do that one, I think, right now. Okay? How does that sound? So maybe you want to look at doing, I don't know if you want to do the 3 ways to use essential oils. You could do all 3 ways. Or if you want to do one of the 3 cool things. If you want me to do the 3 cool things and you to do the 3 ways to use them, you know all that stuff. The most important thing that you say, I think, is that there are a couple ways to use it aromatically. So it's important that we hit it, or we talk about using it from the bottle, from your hands, or from a diffuser. It's super important that you talk about your limbic brain and the olfactory nerve, so talking about how they put you under in the hospital. Topically is pretty easy to discuss, but if you're going to talk about using it internally, it's really important that we say these essential oils are not only safe to use internally, they are recommended. The CPTG standard means that these oils are medicinal grade and they are completely safe to ingest, unlike most other brands. You can put them in your mouth, you can drink them in your water, you can put them in a capsule if you don't like the taste. It's kind of like concocting your own natural remedy, but when you put it in your mouth, your body's going to metabolize this just like food. So that's a pretty important statement to make, because these oils are very different than anyone else's, and nobody else makes that statement. So we have to get that one right. So you listen to that, think about what you feel comfortable with, and just let me know.